Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to discuss about the implementation part of your project. So what I thought very first is actually how the examiners are going to look at the project, when you come for presentation. So we'll go step by step, and then in my slides, I also touch upon the technology part. So technology and the tools. So what examiners look for? Now I have said clear idea about your project. Why did I say? You would definitely have a clear idea. But let's say that you use any third-party tools, you should also know that you have used the third-party tools, right? So when you go for your presentation, you should know exactly what you're going to present with your third-party tools also. So if that means you must know your project inside out, okay? You should be able to explain analysis, design, implementation, and testing, right? Of your project. Clear idea about your technology, which means you should read up about the technology that you have, the choice of technology that you have, so that examiners may query on that. And tools, example Java language if you are using, JDK, the tools like Eclipse, and the databases like MySQL and PostgreSQL or MS SQL, whatever. Right? You should have a readable, clear source code with indentation. Very important. So when the examiner looks at the source code, you will see it's a very well, nicely done. It's readable. And with comments. This is good for you. What I'm saying is because when you are going to be programmers. Almost all of you will be programmers. So for programmers, even programmers, after some time later you will forget what you have done with your code. So it's better to actually comment. I have seen so much source code without comments. So please don't do that. With good comments. Now I normally use a method where basically I even if there are algorithms that you will use, that also I put it in my comments. Right? And I put a date sometimes. I put a date where I put the latest one or the earliest. So I know that there are changes that I have done to the code. But there are tools. For Java, there is a Java doc. You can actually create your comments. You can create if you want. So anyway, explain about your third-party tools. There are lots of third-party tools that you can incorporate in. Right? ActiveX's, Beans, application programming interfaces. Explain about it. Explain and put in there. Explain frameworks that you have used. Because of the fact that the implementation side, you will use frameworks. A lot of frameworks you would be using. Such as now, there are aspect-oriented frameworks like Spring in Java, data access framework like Hibernate, JDBC, ODBC, remote access framework, where RMI, COBA, web services. All these are frameworks. So read up and also explain. Put in your whatever the documentation also. Now for testing, I normally use. If you use certain GUI based like Eclipse, you can use JUnit for Java, NUnit for like Visual Basic or .NET based. Right? You can use for this. This is for unit testing. Right? You will learn that thing. Now, when you come to your presentation, this is why I said that you should know inside out. You will be tested, right, on the code testing so you should be able to make changes to your code at any time, at a given time. So small changes, but you should know. So if you don't know your code, you will have a problem, right? So you should know about where that you can change. I always like to see when we have a project, of course, what would you do? You would look at what you have done. Are there other people who have done this previously? There are lots of projects that you do. A lot of people have done it. If you take library systems, accounting systems, these are common applications people develop. Because now the latest ones are like you have a cloud-based mobile, right? I mean, those also are now coming up. So you should look at what previously people have done, right? And there are also, if there are similar projects, why don't you do evaluation by yourself? You can, very interesting to find out, special user interfaces, how people react to your user interfaces. Is it easy for you to use? Look at Windows, for instance. They have spent millions of dollars to design user interfaces. Look at them. And you will feel where you have to put it's easier for you don't have to reteach, or you don't have to teach people to use user interfaces if they are very similar to Windows, or if you go and look at the Linux like Red Hat, right? The system software. So, and also the navigation. Look at the navigation, how easy it is for people to use, right? It's very important. Acceptance of your project or acceptance of your software application. If it is very easy to use, people will accept it. If it is very difficult to use, people don't. Right, now there was a question. What is the technology that I'm going to use? What's the technology? You will ask this question. You will ask, I think there was a question here. The choice of technology. How to decide that? Now, a lot of people come and say, like, because I like Java, because I learned it, I'm going to use Java. But I'm in the office, I use Microsoft technologies. Therefore, I will use Microsoft technologies. So this is something you to decide. You must decide what actually you should use. That's the choice of technology, because we don't, basically I don't think that we say particular technology. It is up to you to decide on the technology. So, but think about now what you're going to do in the future. If you're planning to be that's too early, but still, if you think that I would like to work on, let's say, cloud computing, right? Or I would like to go to mobile development, then I would say, go for Java. Or even Visual Studio that now we have, Microsoft Mobile, and that's right now is a lesser, but if you look at Android, if you're going to do Android applications, go for Java, right? So that kind of because when you do the project, when you come for an interview, the interviewer will ask, what did you do for your final project? Is it an Android based? Yes, then you will be definitely, you'll get a place there if they're doing a mobile applications. So look at the future and decide the technology. Because when you do a project, you will definitely get used to that technology. Now, for instance, let's say that there are certain countries, like Singapore, for instance, they go for a lot of Microsoft-based technologies. So it's an advantage for you to have if, let's say, you think that you will be working with Microsoft-based. So it's an advantage for you. So think about that and decide. Maybe that you will say, it's easier for me to learn C#, or easier for me to learn VB.NET. Because today, if you take C#, VB.NET, Java, PHP, if you take all of those, they're all object-oriented. You can basically, if you want to implement them as object-oriented applications, they are object-oriented. If you want as a structure, now Java of course you can't, but C#, you have to do it with object orientation, but VB.NET you don't have to think about as object-oriented application. You still can, objects are behind, but object orientation, the paradigm is there, but you can forget it and develop. The same thing about PHP. Still you can develop structure. But I'll touch upon that a little bit now because I want to emphasize on something later. Right. The other one I look at like this. open source. Other one is versus proprietary-based technologies. So the Microsoft Visual Studio, now if you're going to the Microsoft, of course, give it to students free, Microsoft Visual Studio. But it's very difficult to get MS SQL Server 2010, for instance. But you can use MS SQL Server Express, which is for free now. Microsoft is also going on this, giving you certain things free now, right, for you to develop. But Oracle, these are proprietary. But if you have FOSS-based, a lot of things are very freely available. For instance, MySQL. MySQL is now owned by Oracle because Sun was bought by Oracle. Because of that, now there is a different, that's now Oracle, right? But it is freely available. They have changed certain things. If you go to their GUI tools right now, you will see some things are now less. Like what earlier you had a very good tools. Then totally open source and a very nice database management system. This is, you can actually have object oriented also, or object based, PostgreSQL. You take PHP, open source. So when we talk about LAMP, for instance, or WAMP, we are talking about with this. Sometimes people put Python also there, but this is what you have here. Apache, free, FOSS-based. Proprietary, now why I said this is freely available, but they are proprietary because now Oracle owns it. Java, Glassfish, NetBeans. Now I use NetBeans a lot. Very nice compiler with a JDK. You can download it free. And you can work with NetBeans with so many other languages. Like if you want PHP, Python, right? I mean, you can work with it. And Glassfish is a server instead of Tomcat, for instance. You can download Glassfish and work on it. Very good. Better than Tomcat sometimes. So you can use it if you are using JSP, for instance. Right. The next one is, now let's little bit talk about design. There was also a question I heard about the home page in a web page, website, web application. Where would it go? It has to be there in your sequence diagrams. Is that right? So what is happening now? Now you think about, there is a structured way of designing, there is object-oriented design. Now don't confuse, don't put everything together after it. So I sometimes see you have the structure, you have object orientation. No. If you are going through the object orientation, go to the object orientation. So you have the UML, you have the design part, then you will have the use cases, classes, then you have the sequence. Very important. Sequence for me. I'll tell you why. As a developer, let's say there is a continuity in a project. I want a document, I should have good documentation. So what happens, whatever that you put, it's like when you build a house, what would you do when you build a house? You have a good plan. Good plan. Based upon plan, what do? You build the house. Not ad hoc, right? Not ad hoc. So your design is what's going to transform into this, but this application. Earlier it was in your mind. You put it on the documentation, now that transforms into something realistic. It's like building a house. Now imagine that you have a plan and you have different kind of, like you don't go there and the civil engineer, the architect, what we have. The guy who builds the house isn't a guy who builds a wall here, all there, right? But you take a plan and you find the plumbing is somewhere else, your bathroom is somewhere else. No, it should be, it happens, right? It could happen. So, what I'm trying to tell you is, whatever you design, it should transform into your application. So, when you transform, it's very important. Because today, you do not work in isolation. You work with other people. So, what do you mean with other people? When we work with other people, we have to have documentation. That is why it is very important. Continuity of the project is actually what you document. So that's why I'm asking you to, very important, when you go into the job market, if you get used to this, it's very easy for you to work with a team, right? So you would know exactly where you stand. So transform whatever you design, right, into the reality in the development or the implementation phase. So it's very important to document. So in your sequence diagrams, you should have what? User interactions. Very good. So what we will have is, we will document. Okay. Now there are classes. You will identify them, right? So they should also transform. Now don't use PHP, you go to object orientation and what will happen? Don't do structured way of coding. Use PHP with classes. You have nice, beautiful object oriented. There is a class you have been given. Right? So if you do that, now we live in a world in cloud computing. Right? You go to the Google, you can talk to Google with you have seen so many different things that you can do right now. This is the future. Right? So if you work with this, you will work with objects. You will know where to actually use APIs, use different types of different objects. So learn that way. So it's a classes for the reusability. Now for the web, now today standalone and web applications for me is irrelevant. But I would say you would call it standalone. Now there was another question I heard, whether I would do a standalone or a web-based. Well, you can do it. There are some applications you need to develop standalone. Like for instance, there are highly secure applications which the user tells you, user requirement is this, I don't want anything else other than standalone. When I say standalone, when I say standalone, that means it will work on a network, but you have an application on your desktop running. It should be able to communicate with the network environment. That means you have a MS SQL server or something is running here with a client server architecture, right? Okay, so now the most important part, you have to justify. You have to justify why that you have decided on a standalone application. Now, because the web-based applications today, you can develop it as standalone. Now earlier, the HTTP works. You make a request, then what happens? Always there is a request, you connect, disconnect, you connect, disconnect. We call it stateless. Today, we can develop what we call stateful applications. How can we do that? We have Ajax. jQuery, right? So you can have the same feel of a stateful application with Ajax, right? jQuery. There is a JavaScript that we can use with other talk a little bit later. There are lots of things you can do right now. So it becomes basically not like a standalone application can work. But I would like to have this. Always think about, in a web application, look at the model view control architecture. Now this actually started in 1970s for smart talk. Now today that sounds very mature and it's been used throughout application development. This allows, I think you can see it in your object oriented, what is the reusability? Reusability, right? And also, you have separation of concern. And this actually you have heard and you have learned encapsulated and information hiding. How do you do that? You can do this by presentation layer, business logic, you have learned, right? Okay? And data access and database. So you can nicely separate them. And common things you can put it in a nice little folders and keep it. In NetBeans you can do it very nicely and you can package it, right, beautifully, and you can even separate packages and you can build it and you can access them whenever you want it. Okay, let's see. I'm a little bit going to give you some technology quickly. So Java-based technologies. I put that a lot of people love Java these days because it is mobile, right? But there are lots of other languages that you would like to use. But this is a platform, right? So now it is actually J2EE is now changed to Java EE, Java Platform, Enterprise Edition. Current version is Java 6, I believe, and Java 7 is due to come. Let me say it. This includes JDBC, so you connect RMI and JMS messages, right? JMS. Then you have serverless connectors, Java server pages, Java beans and Javalets. Also, then you have now Java faces, I don't know you have heard, right? You can use, but I always like to see this. Use something like this, NetBeans, Eclipse, right? If you are, why I'm asking you to do that? You can debug very easily, and you can put a breakpoint or something like you can just nicely debug with this. So I basically use NetBeans. Eclipse also you can do that. Now these two you can use for testing also. Eclipse is a very good, very easy to unit testing. So use that and look at it. And when you come, you explain in the exam. This is what I have used. These are the technologies. The next one, this is the open source. This is a LAM for WAM. For the PHP, you can use Dreamweaver. I'm actually using with NetBeans. I normally code, if I code with PHP, I like to use this. You can use with this also. Now MySQL is a part of this. Use classes. There's another one. Now let's say you are going to design your forms. There are lots of tools out there, freely available. Now this one of these, phpform.org. You go there, you can look at the colors, you can get the whole socket down. You can take it out and you can design it. But then you can change, there are cascade style sheets are there. You can change it whenever you want. Now when you come there though, you have to take down. You have to say, I use these tools. Don't come and say, I designed it. Because examiners like us, we know what is there by default. Because we have gone there and looked at it. Right? So we know exactly what is available. Immediately you would know, looking at the code, whether it's generated or not. Right? So therefore you tell it. Don't be shy. When there is something up there which is available, you can use it. You can use it, but it's within your scope. It has to be within that scope. You use it. But don't use there are some ActiveXs. You can just put, that's only your project. No, that's not, right? Remember that. There are APIs. Totally you can take it. But examiners would know that. You don't have to tell us because we definitely know what is there. Right? So the web-based technologies, you can use Ajax, JavaScript and Dojo framework, jQuery. Today, a lot of people use this jQuery. I mean, it's just like, it's something that you need to have. So learn jQuery. If you are using web-based, it will come really handy when you go out there for jobs. Right? Java server faces with Ajax. Now this is a new thing. You learn this one. It will make you feel great that you have done something great. Right? Then, this is called Zool. Right? So you can use it. I'm not going to. You go and look it up. What Zool is. Right? This is, you can now create web pages with this. And then the next one. This is a Mozilla project. You can go there. Microsoft Visual Studio. There are a lot of stuff. I have just put a few for you to sort of actually have an idea about it. Why did I put a few? Everything you can do right now on Visual Studio. Very good compiler. I have not seen a nice compiler like that. I have been using it for the last, I saw the development throughout. It C#, Java-like language, VB.NET, you have ASP.NET, you have Silverlight, very beautiful. Also, they have come up with web services right now, SOAP-based applications you can have. WPF, it's also you can create with this Zool, it supports Zool, where, so that it actually can bring a UML type, the design type of this thing into your compiler. Easy to debug for me. I normally work with this compiler because it's easy, but it's actually mostly for Windows. Now, right now they say cross-platforms also, Visual Studio, and MS SQL Server. Express is free, right? So anyway, so I will now stop for the question and answers. One thing I wanted to emphasize now, when we speak about Java-based, sometimes it is a cross-platform. So if you are developing an application that is cross-platform, then you use Java-based applications. But if you are using Windows only, then you can go for Visual Studio. But I don't think you have, you can, that's also when you decide of your technology, you can decide based upon that. Okay, I think half an hour is up. Zool is XML user interface markup language. Okay? Can I have the hands up? Any mobile application development right now? Any projects? Mobile application, Android based? You are doing it. What is the compiler you can use? Eclipse? Yeah, with Android, with the Google. Yeah, this is a difficult question you're asking me. Now, if you use PHP, I have come across lots of generators. And then you can, by the way, sometimes you can develop application in 2 days. 2 days. I have seen enough generators. You bring me a port, I look at it and tell you it's a port generator. Right? So let me tell you this. This is my personal thing, I think others, because when you develop with generators, you don't know where some of these will come, right? When we ask from you, if I ask you to explain the code, you may not be able to do it, right? So I would prefer not to use some of the generators, like PHP generators, right? Java, don't do that. But you can use Hibernate, for instance. You can use Hibernate. Hibernate, you can use it, because Hibernate, you would not know how it will talk, but Hibernate is a framework that you can, it's much lower level than that. But don't use, I think, PHP, I know there are 2 or 3. I have looked at the code, I have worked with it, and definitely you will get lost. So don't do that. On the other hand, some examiners would definitely know that. When you're just looking at it, they would know, right? When you question, obviously you know that it must have generated. So, it will generate code in there. So I would prefer if you're using PHP, don't use generators. You develop a nice set of your classes. But use frameworks. There are some frameworks that you can use with PHP also. But standard. How can we define the developing language? It is a web-based system. Now that's what I came up with. Now that all depends upon you. If you think it's a web-based, you can still do Microsoft also. Very nice. ASP.NET. What you call the WPF. You have the frameworks. You can do it. Very fast development also. It's a rapid application. Agile methods, it allows you to do that. still, it depends upon you. If you like, because there are certain countries, they say Microsoft only. So if you develop, there are lots of people, they may be looking for C#, or ASP.NET, right? So there are people who look for that, all the Microsoft Mobile, the tablets. So you can do now, Windows 8, it's a touch screen, a lot of applications are coming on, right? Because Microsoft expects it will be driven by this touch screen technologies, right? So there will be a lot of scope for that. But if you look at, on the other hand, Google is going on Android. Then we don't have Apple. Apple also is there, out there. But Android now is currently flourishing. And then you have what we call the cloud computing. So look at all of this and decide what you like, what you want to be in, and then decide on that. But all these languages are object-oriented right now. It follows all the basically the basic things. So therefore I don't see any difference at all. So you can decide on your own. That's another one. Good. Is it compulsory to use MS Express application like MS SQL Express 2005? Can we use Enterprise? Oh no, you can use. Now, only thing is, Microsoft prefers if you don't have license to use MS SQL Express. But that doesn't mean you are disallowed to use if you have an Enterprise edition. It doesn't matter. Even the license they are not changing. When you bring don't worry. Okay, so you don't have to worry that you will go to jail. Okay? So Microsoft prefers though. Yeah. Now I want to know, now if let's say that you come up with your application, right? I would like to know how much is yours, how much is not yours. Some of them yes, but it's better that you, when you write to the beforehand, because of the scope problem, right? I would prefer to find out how many things are that you would be yours, right? So it's better that you first write and say these classes I'm going to use, and because then we can see how much. Because now you see the thing is, this is not only a project. This is how it's going to learn, right? So if you are going to learn, you must also what? Because when you go out there, it's not only getting your degree. This is the next step. This is the step for you to go into the real environment. So
he has spent 6 months, around 6 months to develop the routine classes.
So anyway, we will look at whatever we will. It's better that if you have your own, right? Let's look at what are the ones that are like yours and what are not, right? Okay. Can we use code generated framework for PHP? I told you, please don't. You will come up with a professional looking code. I will be like looking at it and say, wow, this can't be that good, you can't be that good. You got it? Huh? Right? So I think when we use a PHP, my warning, don't use generators. There are a lot of people here will pick it up very fast. So make sure that you develop it. But if there are frameworks, use frameworks, some of the frameworks, right? Okay. Will you please give us examples of mobile apps? You want some mobile apps? Examples? How many of you are mobile? You are only one there, right? Are there any others? Aren't we see? You are there. But you are doing Android. Huh? Android. What is? I don't want to ask now. But anyway, there are lots of examples. I think it's already there, right? So we don't have to give you, but you have to learn how to sort of actually work with it. Anyway, it was a mobile app for project should he or she demonstrate it with the relevant? No, you can have a virtual, you can do, right? You don't have to bring the device. Huh? You can basically show it, how it works. But if you have, like for instance, I carry so many Android phones. You can just put it in here and you can show, right? So you don't need to really. Virtually you can show, right? You have simulators. You can simulate it and show it. But it's better to have. I would suggest if you're really into mobile, the Android mobile, then get a. I mean, it's not very cheap now. You get an Android mobile and work on it. You can just put it in there and you can test it also. With the relevant device to show how it works. Yeah, you can go for simulators, but I would prefer that if you have a device, that will be ideal. Should be software based. I don't know. It's up to. Do we enough for simulators, or would you have the device? Yeah. So I think we can accept, but if you really want, if you can show, that's the idea. So I normally have several. I have phone or whatever just to check it out. Right? Should be software be installable or portable? What is portable? I don't know who had said this. Installable or portable? What do you mean by portable? I don't know what it means. Installable, yes. Portable means, what does it mean? I don't know. Right. Oh, portable means you carry it, huh? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Then you can carry it. There are so many people carry that. But anyway, then we can easily look at the code also, right? So, installable, I don't think, you can install it and show it, and after that we can look at the code. So it will be easier. So even if you have a PHP application, don't hash it, then you will not be able to see it. Then that's a problem. Could we submit a project like a mobile app with the general public users where we will not have a particular client? Oops. But I think there's a client requirement. There is a client requirement. So can't you have several clients? You go to the road and say, look, can you use my mobile app and tell us? Very simple. Huh? Then get them to sign. Do we accept that? So each citizen will give you a letterhead with this, I'm so and so. No. Please have a client. I think it's better. Are there any languages that you should refrain from using? Whoa, boy. Yes, VB.NET. That's a good question. Now VB.NET is also fully object-oriented, but the only thing is if you code with VB.NET, you don't know how to put semicolon, but then you do Python also same thing, right? Then you have indentation. You have to make sure indentation. Right. It is up to you. Even VB.NET also that we accept, but unfortunately VB.NET you can do it in single application. I have seen so many applications like it. You would do a lot of these object-oriented design methodology, and you come and give without any classes. You don't know how to even implement classes in VB.NET. Do you think we can accept that kind of applications? Right? No. So I would prefer to have object orientation, those methodologies, and you show this is the inheritance in VB.NET. Because there are two types of inheritance in VB.NET. One is called interface and the fully of the inheritance. So please use proper way, right? VB.NET is also fine as long as you use it properly. So there are so many here. I don't know. All right, that's so on. Right. This is any problem if I use jQuery library such as. Yeah, so no problem. Yeah, I don't expect you to come and. It's better that if you can develop similar to something in jQuery, but if you use jQuery and you tell, when you come there, don't be shy, yeah? Don't be scared to say, I use jQuery. Please use it. So that's fine. Okay, are there any others? I think I answered all the questions, right? So the last of it, right? I think you will have a very interesting time doing the project. I think you will love it doing it, and I wish you good luck. Okay.